So, hello.
Hello.
Yeah, that's it. We are Playmodes. In fact, we're a small studio which is based really near from where we are now. We are in a small town called Flaçà, like 10 minutes in train from Girona. Basically, we like to describe what we do as audiovisual research. We haven't found a better, don't know, a better collection of words to compress everything that we do. So we think we love a lot this idea of researching and something that we do a lot. So we try to define ourselves as audiovisual researchers. And basically what we do is to play with technologies. So basically our work is based on these main concepts. We've been doing this evolution from screen to space. We come from the BJ field back in the 90s, and we've been like moving more and more into colonizing space with audiovisual technologies. So this is like one of our anchor points in the work that we do. Also, this idea of relating sound and image very closely or in a very precise form is something that we explore a lot. We are both musicians and visualists, so we work.
I'm not a musician.
I'm a musician, Eloi is a visualist, so basically we try to create all the projects that we do, we create both the sound and the images. And also we've been finding since the beginning that we started working, we've been looking for ways to orchestrate complex systems in simple ways. So we've been doing a lot of research on how to control audiovisual systems using new tools or developing new tools. And this led us to this last anchor point, this idea of do-it-yourself. We love to create our own tools, so most of the things that we do are based on self-made technologies, self-made software, or hardware that we collaborate with people to create. So basically, those are like the main things in which our work is based. And we made like a very fast soup of what we do, concentrated in a video.
So maybe if you came yesterday, some of the images you've seen now, you saw it or in Telenoica talk or in the one afterwards with Alex Posada. So we used to collaborate a lot with him. So that's why we are not like so we are working together. We are trying to focus our talk more than showing what we do. Is trying to be a bit more deeper into some of the last projects. So it's not like making a portfolio thing, but trying to get more in detail how we work, how we get the things done. And well, the first one we're going to show is a mapping we made for last year for Karlsruhe, a city in Germany. It was a huge building, around 2,300 meters. No, 200, 300 meters, I don't know.
I don't remember.
Huge.
A lot.
So, yeah, there was a setup of like 8 projection points with 3 20K projectors on each one. So like a 24 projectors. It was a huge. All this was done by like the organization, and we were given like the layout of the building that was huge. So it was 10,000 pixels. And then we have like the 2D layout and the 3D model. So basically we could concentrate on contents, that's quite good. And the starting point, we were commissioned by these people, and the work that they want us to reference was this one that you've seen in small images from the Telenoica crew. And that was like the starting point, like this black and white abstract stuff.
So basically, as we had like this previous reference, we wanted to work with these ideas or keep to these concepts of working with black and white and working with minimalist geometry, minimalism graphics, making some research on perception tricks using audiovisual technologies, so trying to figure out how to create optical illusions, working, and as we are working with this idea of black and white, working also with contrasts, not just at the formal level, but also in a conceptual level. So working with contrasts and opposites was also part of the ideas that led to the final thing. So to summarize all this, we finished with these like basic concepts: black versus white, order versus chaos, and nature versus technology. So all this gave us this game of opposites, or this game of contrast that we wanted to work with. So starting our research on finding references or things that were inspiring somehow, we've been looking a lot for contemporary art or from modern art, things that we liked and that were more or less on that line of ideas. We liked a lot the work by Victor Vasarely. He was an optical artist working a lot with these ideas of contrast and perception tricks. So we used this kind of imagery as an inspiration for the work that we did. We also made a visit to the foundation of these artists, so to get a deeper feeling on what was happening with that. We also found some new artists. Maybe you can explain a little about this.
Well, I think
guy.
it's not new. It's older. It's from the 20s. But on the research, you find this picture, and we said, yeah, that's kind of expressing a volume with black and white, with the torsion of the lines, like expressing the volume, and we were like interested on that. So we look a bit more. And we start to understand that, wow, that's kind of abstract shit, and we like it. But then we realized that it was not that abstract, because in fact was a thing they were doing in the 20s or 20s, 30s, was kind of a camouflage thing for the army or for the navy. So they were trying to, at that time there were no like, let's say drones or like torpedoes that you can just push the button and it will shoot you, kill you. So this is kind of an optical trick for the enemy, so it's kind of difficult to distinguish in which direction the ship is moving. And at the end it was also in the concept like this kind of a optical trick, but it's based on the army thing, so it was confusing, but it was really inspiring also finding these things and understanding that these things has been used not just in art, but also in war. So it was like a strange thing. More examples. So that's for real. That's not an artist making like a rave party in a boat. It's an army, an army boat, or trying what they were trying to hide or whatever. I don't know. There were no sensors and no computer vision at that time. It was like just the guy who has to shoot has to understand. Like that's the direction, that's the speed, and I have to shoot to make a boom. And that was kind of to help people to keep alive. That's another one that's frightening and well, that kind of illusions we really like and we love it. Also another, so in this like science or like technology versus nature, we were inspired by this like biological tables or like, I don't know how you call it, like catalogs of species that we were doing by biologists on the last century, as they were like trying to draw all the different things, all the different animals and species that they found. And we started to capture many of them and just start to make like small videos like this, trying to, it's a way of showing a lot of information that it's all related, so like similar species, different shapes, but was a way of saying the technology goes really fast, and this science technology goes really fast, and it's telling you a lot of things without, with a like stroboscopic effect that also we love, and I think that's the result of this. The thing is, for these small seconds, we cut and paste and compose thousands of hundreds of pictures. They were nature pictures and then also technology, plans of tanks, cars, so a lot of stuff. But that was the idea of showing how humankind has got into technology, and one was of the inspiration how to talk about human technology and development in this stroboscopic succession of crazy images.
So also following this idea of working with perception tricks, we found this really amazing animation. This is kind of a classical optical trick. This is made just using like 4 different frames, which are in loop. And it's basically based on just slightly rotating the image and working with its inverse. And you see that with such a really simple setup, you can create this illusion of perpetual movement. So we wanted to bring that into the facade, or we try to work using this technique applied to the projection mapping. So we went for this kind of illustrations, to this kind of images, just using black and white, highly contrasted images, in order to recreate the effect. And also something that we really love, and we are kind of maniac with it, is that we always try to find the sonic counterpart of everything graphic that we do, and vice versa. So what we made was to create an audio engine to create these stroboscopic effects in terms of audio. So if in image we are doing this stroboscope of inverted images, we wanted to do something similar in terms of audio. So I'm afraid this can be a little loud. So as you will see, everything is based on this very beautiful music during all the show. So basically what you've seen is like 2 different sound engines, or like two sound engines which are, alternated, swapping one to the other, to a frequency which is related to the frame per second, or to the frame rate of the movie. So again, or working farther with this idea of perception tricks, we've also been working with some classical sound illusion stuff. So this is called the Shepard tone. This is basically a sound trick which gives the impression which is always rising in terms of pitch. And this goes on and on forever. So this is something that we also used on the show. And basically you can see here what's the result of all this research and development. So more ideas which relate somehow audio and graphics or audio architecture and graphics. By looking at the structure of architecture itself, we thought that it could be like easily converted into a step sequencer. Basically, step sequencer is a kind of, it's a scoring system for audio. So there were a lot of windows on this building, and this building was like separated into different wings. So what we made was to figure out how many wings were there in these different wings. So we found some wings with 16 windows. We found some wings with 4 windows. We found wings with 5 windows. So basically what we decided is to create kind of a polyrhythmic rhythm or polyrhythmic composition, which was taken into account, or which was transforming this building into a polyphonic step sequencer. So in terms of visualization, we just wanted to make this minimalistic stuff, or this minimalistic thing, like referring to the real step sequencer themselves, and that's the final result, or this little snippet showing that. So we have this header moving forward. Every time this header passes by a picked window, it generates a sound. So everything is based around this idea of step sequencing the architecture.
Yeah, as this was a huge building and a huge rendering times, we got to the idea, to the solution of using code, like coding development for making contents. So we tried several things. We didn't have much time, but we're gonna tell you what are the things we did with code. The first one was really like a simple, we have all the layout, all the, the vector of the building, and we can choose each of these vector over the small windows, or like marks of the window, or like little wall separations things, and then we make some random compositions, like one random on the whole building, or 2 random things, or 3 at the same time, or in this way, so we can make progressions of randomic things going on. I think that's the result. So probably you could do that in After Effects or in Cinema 4D or whatever, but we choose the other way around, using open frameworks to make this video. I'm not sure at the end which could be faster, but it was quite fast in terms of coding. But also the idea of exploring this thing of using code for creating contents for such a mapping show, where we usually use like Cinema 4D or After Effects, was engaging and was part of our research. Another thing that I think that's a video. It's not a video. It is? Yeah. The other thing, we find out this thing on the internet, that's called like a Gray-Scott reaction diffusion effect, or shader or graphic thing. It's like a modelization of a relation of 2 liquids, more or less. And what we did is just we port this shader. At the end, this is a shader inside, inside this thing, and we port this to open frameworks so we start to try to see if we could put that into the facade also, onto the building. And these are like some testing images. In terms of concept, as you see, this kind of thing is quite, so many animals and fishes has this pattern on their skin, like zebras and some like tropical fishes has this kind of similar pattern. So it was quite technical, but it was like something that modelizes a natural thing. So it was absolutely on our conceptual line. And we end up like doing this, this kind of like a shader, also in open frameworks, like a mini software that we can play with that. It was so huge, so we rendered the full 10,000 by 1080 pixels, that it was not real time, but we make like a stupid like rendering machine with open frameworks. And I think that's not a video, but this is the video. Yeah, you can see a bit of the results here. And that's the end. The end of the show was with this effect. So this was inspired by the concept that we like, that even when they make a highway or like something like a concrete area in urban spaces, maybe after 1 or 2 years you will see like a small tiny green thing going in a little crack on the concrete, and that was kind of like this fight was like this kind of thing, that even that you can try to clean things with technology, nature or organic things, systems are much powerful from our perception.
So we move ahead to another project. This one is called Axial. This is an interactive installation. In fact, we have like several versions of the same installation. We work it both as a regular or contemplative installation, but also as an interactive instrument. What we're going to go in focus or to look deeply is to the interactive version of it. So here, first we have a kind of a teaser or a little video explaining the whole thing. So even in its non-interactive mode, this thing runs always real-time, or it's based on real-time technologies. We'll take a deeper look at it. Basically, this is like the first installation that we did using regular or commercial DMX fixtures. Until that moment, we've been working with light, but always with custom-made stuff, mainly with lasers. But we wanted like to explore this universe of show lighting. So as you've seen, everything is based on this corridor of light with 16 moving heads. And
play, yeah. What we add, so as it already was a real-time system, this next step was to say, okay, why don't we allow people to play with it, or why do we make an interactive system? That's something that always we try to allow people, so don't keep our stuff as a secret, but just allow people to play with our toys. At the end, we are play modes, we play with things, we like to play with it, so we allow people to play with it also. So we were using lip motion, this like hand sensor, for driving the interaction. Well, you see here a bit we have also like a simulation system, because we don't own these lights. We don't have a full hangar where we can set up. So what we do is we make a simulation system of the things, or the things that we design. And basically here's like the layout of organization of things. I don't know, I can see it. Yeah, so basically the data from the lip motion from the hands is going to an open frameworks application that is reading it, and it's sending OSC data to the other systems, and it's displaying like this representation or rendering of the hands, so that the user can have like a feedback of how is the sensor getting their hands. And then this data is sent to two systems. One is the light system that is moving, like movement and color of light is directly linked to this information that comes from the OSC, and to the audio engine with a multi-output thing that was also like real-time making the same thing. So the same data is sent to both systems, so everything is tightly related. Go on.
So we were talking a little in the introduction about this idea of scoring complex systems. So when working with this show or with this installation, we found out that we couldn't stick to this idea of the classical sequencer, the classical timeline, and we needed to develop something that allowed us to work with more complexity in a kind of a easy way. So imagine each of these moving heads has like 25 channels. So if you multiply that by 16, you have, I don't know, 300 channels that you would need to write by hand. We didn't want to do that. So we tried to figure out some algorithms or some systems to work with that complexity. And then we thought that it could be a nice idea to work with low frequency oscillators or with waveforms or with oscillation to manage movement in both axes of the moving heads, also for dimmering and also for color. And then there was this idea of working with these transversal waves. So at the end, in this image, what you see is a metaphor of what we're doing. So imagine we have this string that we are shaking it. And what we do is to sample which is the height of the string at different points. In this case, we have 16 lights. So what we do is to sample what's the height of this waveform at 16 different points. And we use that data, or that sample data, as a control parameter for the position of X and Y, and also for color and dimmering. So maybe it's a little easier to understand by looking at this software conglomerate. So basically, this is the control system of the whole thing. What you see here, this is the oscillation thing, or this is the control, the waveforms that control the whole system, both the lights and the audio. What you see here, this is the sound engine, which is receiving data from these waveforms, and also what you see here, this is the simulation of the lights. So we don't own these lights, so we need some kind of system to be able to pre-compose at home what the installation is going to look like. So we always work with these simulators. We can go ahead with this. Maybe we just put another one. This is another example of the same thing. So to make a clear idea about this, basically we have these waveforms which create control parameters, and these control parameters, we use it both for controlling lights and also for controlling audio. So this whole thing together is an audiovisual instrument. I mean, it's not like we make a soundtrack and then we make the movements following that soundtrack, but everything comes together at the same time. So when we are composing movement, at the same time we are composing sound. And when we are composing sound, at the same time, we're composing movement. So it's a whole instrument, or it's a unique instrument in itself. So here what you see on the simulation part, this is a different strategy. The last simulation was based on OpenGL that was programmed by Eloi using open frameworks. In this case, this is Unity. So basically what we do is to model in Cinema 4D the space, and then we manage to create a system where Unity understands each of the lights that we've modeled, and we are able to control these lights using digital protocols, using open sound control. So what we're doing now is just to load presets, And you see that each preset has its sound reaction and its light reaction. Okay.
Okay, next and last. Sorry. Next and last project is one we did also last year in Barcelona, like city festival. I think we are all hungry, or you more or less, so we're gonna try to go a bit. You can see that on internet if you want one. So I think it's more interesting if we explain things than showing.
So we can sidechain, no?
So yeah, that was basically you understand now the project. It was a plane. We don't own the plane also. And we were commissioned to say, hey, we got this space or this structure, do you want to make something inside? And then we were willing to work with LEDs, stripes that we didn't had before. So it was a perfect place for starting to work with LEDs. And we make this installation like all of 22 arcs and all this around 140 meters of LEDs. And yeah, we're going to talk about the process that we were doing. So that's a plane, that's the inside, that's when we make the site visit, what we saw, and that it's kind of obvious that you see this and you say you put LEDs on each ring and you're full of light and you make something interesting inside.
So yeah, and then we think about what can we do there? Shit, we do a space travel. I mean, this is a plane, it's related to trips. We like science fiction. We are working with light. We can make something futuristic on there. So, like first clear reference was 2001 by Stanley Kubrick. We especially like this sequence, both in music and graphic thing. This was amazing visual effects made with analog technologies at the time. This is slit scanning and feedback stuff. So basically what we wanted was to bring that into the digital world inside the plane. And we went for that. We also love this music. This is by Georgi Ligeti. We also liked a lot this kind of strange stuff. So first thing was to design how this technically how this was going to work. So basically we had like these 22 arches on the plane. We decided to cover them with LED strips. We had like very long axes. We had 5 of them. So again, more LEDs. We had 44 windows, 22 at each side. We went for analog LED strips to create like 1 pixel per each of the windows and to create this perspective stuff or like clouds passing by or whatever. And then also we had like this glass floor, and then we installed some regular parallel fixtures on the floor so that we could light people from the floor. And more or less that's it in terms of materials. We need to go fast, so So that's the scheme, or that's how everything works. Basically, we have a computer running MapMapper, which is a software which is also used for mapping or for projection mapping. In this case, we use it for pixel mapping. And basically, what we had here was a bunch of DMX LED controllers, which were in charge of controlling these LED strips. On these LED strips at the end have many LEDs, 60 LEDs per meter, for example. And each of these LEDs is a pixel or can be controlled using video technologies. So we made use of that. We were also using like conventional or regular par LEDs. And we also had like a multi-channel audio system, because we wanted also to recreate these perspective effects that we were doing in terms of graphics. We wanted to have them also in terms of sound. So when something is like going by or coming closer to you, the sound is also doing the same. We're kind of maniac with that kind of stuff, so that's something that we always do.
And at the end, all these bunch of lights, so there are a lot of LEDs, but at the end, if you are used to work with pixels, it all become with a stupid or tiny texture that was this size, like 517 by 31. And that was what we were, how we fit all the content was like making a video with this layout. And here is like everything is on this thing. How we do that is well, that will come later. Just explain this texture, how it's split. So the top line is the lines that you see like on the ceiling. There's these vertical lines. All this big like rainbow area is all the 22 arcs. And then we have two tiny areas like this purple and this red area that is on one side. This was for the windows and for the floor lights. So at the end, the problem or how to make the show was to animate this texture in such a way that it become, we can make it. Of course, with this texture, you cannot understand or imagine what's going on the space. So again, we did a Cinema 4D model that was using so we were texture coordinator, we're using the texture coordinates of this image to put into the model, so that at the end there was a relation between this 2D, two-dimensional image with the 3D model, a simplification of the plane. So with After Effects, you can play a siphon texture that goes into Unity, which has the Cinema 4D model with the UV texture coordinates. And at the end, you have like a simulation system of the whole thing. And you can work with, let's say, with After Effects. And on a secondary window, you can have the 3D environment or real-time environment in Unity. So you are not working with the texture, that it's like flat thing, but with the 3D layouts, it's much more fresh and easy to imagine and make things and understand what things you can do on this level. I don't know if that's the simulation. Yeah, so that was how this simulation, how we were looking at stuff. And usually that was open always on the secondary monitor, and you were able to see what was going on all the time. And of course, you can move it around, or you can see how is the user experience from different points of view. And it's not we are not looking for realistic rendering, but for like conceptual and creatively realistic, so that we can understand what's the feeling and how is it working inside. So it's a representation, it's a metaphor of the real thing, but it's helped us, and I would say that it will be impossible to make such contents without this kind of things. I think we are late.
We're late and we're done.
And we're done.
Yeah.
Thank you. Can I ask you something? Can we all be here exactly at 3:30? So
What?
the people who speak have the time to do their thing without rushing, and you have the time to ask them questions. That's the interesting thing. So let's try to eat in 1 hour and a little bit, please.
Thank you, anyone. Thank you for all these inspiring conferences, talks. It's really, I hope you are enjoying as much as I'm doing. Just very briefly,